With the scene properly understood in the last tutorial, let's plan how to shoot the scene. I'm here in Shot Designer, which we looked at in the previous training course on pre-production. This is kind of an aerial schematic of our scene. I'm going to just draw some benches and the big tree. And then I'll make these circles which represent Tayani on this side and Cordeya on this side. And since they're talking to each other, we can create an axis of action between them. This is otherwise known as the line or the 180-degree line. We know because of the geography of the scene that we'll want cameras on this side of the line. We'll definitely want an establishing shot, also called a master shot. This will help viewers understand the spatial continuity of the scene, which is huge, so that viewers don't feel disoriented. We got this establishing shot during our initial production shoot. And of course, we'll want to get what's called a two-shot, basically a shot with two people, with both actresses together in our case. And we'll want to get what are called reverses. These are shots focused on each of the characters. There are mainly two types of reverses. External reverses, where the camera is outside of the imaginary bubble between characters, so that we see the body of the other character in the frame, such as with an over-the-shoulder shot. Now, when you get just a hint of another character like this in the frame, that's referred to as the character being dirty in the frame. In this reverse on Tayani from the goodbye scene, for example, Cordeya is dirty in the frame. Internal reverses are where the camera is inside of that imaginary bubble between characters, and we don't see the other character. This feels a little bit more intimate than an external reverse. Since this is largely Tayani's scene, but Cordeya's role is hugely important in the overall film, I think it makes sense to cover most of Tayani's lines as external reverses, and all of the reverses on Cordeya as internal reverses. That will create the feeling that Cordeya is processing this information deeply. For the first half of the scene, I think this is great. We'll talk more about coverage in the next tutorial, but I think this is enough coverage, even though it's kind of sparse. But for the second half of the scene, it's mostly Tayani's little magic demo. So each shot in that sequence is going to need some individual attention. The shush is where things really start to feel stylized. So covering that in the wide shot just feels too generic. So let's throw on a longer lens and get a tighter shot of that. But for her sitting back and holding out her hand, we could just cover it in the external reverse that we already have. And then the magic forms. So we definitely want a close-up of that. But I think it would be more powerful if we could not only get a close-up of the magic, but also see how this impacts Cordeya. So let's do almost like an external reverse on Cordeya, like an over-the-shoulder shot, except that we're over the hand instead of the shoulder. And with this shot, we can bring that magic right up to the camera and then rack focus from the magic in the hand to Cordeya's reaction while still in the same shot. This also gives us the added benefit of making the magic go out of focus, which both speaks to our theme and also looks really organic and kind of cool. Next, we want to show Tayani's face in close-up so that we get the impact of her trance. We want this process to be slow and feel like it's kind of difficult for Tayani to conjure this magic so that it contrasts with how easy it is for Cordeya to summon even more magic later on in the film. This level of intimacy is a little tough to sustain, so let's back out to the two-shot again as we see Tayani turn away. Then let's get an extreme close-up of Tayani blowing the particles away. And finally, let's end in the two-shot. The two-shot is wide enough to see the explosion and the characters, but still tight enough to see their faces. At this point, as a director, I also might make notes about certain emotional beats in the scene or about the tone or the mood. For example, I felt it was important to shoot this scene at night because the magic and the explosion would pop more against the night sky. I also wanted this scene to be really unique and memorable for the film, so it's the only major scene that happens at night. And in order to make it pop more, I also wanted the colors to be heavily stylized as well. So I planned on stylized blue moonlight filling the scene from this direction, and we added torches to motivate orange light coming from the other side. That creates this split down the middle of the characters' faces, which is really unusual, but I love it. Now, for your own projects, you might have a completely different approach. You might make different choices. But hopefully, a look at this process gives you some frame of reference for preparing to shoot your own scenes.